There was a time when humans were still new to the galactic scene, fresh out of their cradle world, Earth. Curious, determined, and utterly insane by galactic standards, they quickly earned a reputation not for their technology, which was, admittedly, primitive, but for their behavior in high-stress environments. The incident that led to the galactic ban began aboard the GSV Harmonious Accord, a diplomatic cruiser from the peaceful Tharn Federation. On board were delegates from 7 species, including 1 human, Lieutenant Commander Rachel Voss of the United Earth Defense Corps. She had been invited as part of a goodwill exchange, meant to showcase cooperation between species. But Rachel boarded the ship differently than everyone else. She walked up the ramp in full combat armor, helmet sealed, and motionless as a statue. The other species exchanged nervous glances. Helmets were considered a cultural sign of hostility in many galactic civilizations. The act of hiding one's face indicated distrust or intent to engage in battle. But Rachel gave no explanation, and no one was bold enough to ask. The incident was logged but overlooked. That was the first mistake. On day 3 of the journey, the Harmonious Accord was attacked by pirates from the dreaded Zarkari Expanse, a race of arachnid raiders who hunted ships for sport. The bridge lights flashed red. Emergency klaxons echoed through the corridors. While the Tharn scrambled for shields and the Relaki diplomats cowered in escape pods, Rachel calmly stood up from the observation lounge, her helmet still on. "Human." The ship's AI blurted over comms. "What are your orders?" She said nothing. The helmet's black visor reflected only firelight from the first plasma strike that had breached the hull. Rachel stepped toward the emergency weapons locker. With the override code transmitted from her armor, the case hissed open. She didn't reach for a rifle. She grabbed a welding torch, a coil of power cable, a gravity spike, and a hydration tube. Then she vanished into the ductwork like some kind of armored gremlin. The pirates boarded 17 minutes later. Expecting little resistance, they rushed in through the airlocks, chittering in glee at the scent of fear. The Zarkari are strong, brutal, and fast, designed for kill-and-capture tactics. Within 10 minutes, they'd taken the lower decks. Within 15, they had control of engineering. At 18 minutes and 32 seconds, things went wrong. Very wrong. Deck 7 depressurized, not because of damage, but because someone had rerouted the environmental systems. Dozens of pirates were vented into space. Deck 6 collapsed under a chain of gravity surges that shouldn't have been possible. The lead pirate commander, Vrask, was found pinned to the ceiling, his limbs twisted by what medics later described as improvised graviton entanglement. One surviving Zarkari, trembling and scorched, reported the attack like this. "The human, she walked out of the steam with fire in her hands. She didn't run. She stalked. She didn't speak. She laughed." The battle was over in 34 minutes. Rachel Voss reappeared in the lounge, covered in grime, armor-dented, and several Zarkari mandibles tied to her belt with fiber-optic cable. Still wearing her helmet. The rest of the crew stared. The Tharn ambassador asked the obvious question. Why didn't you take your helmet off? Why were you like that?" Rachel replied, voice still modulated. "Because I only take it off when the job is done." Word spread like wildfire across the galaxy. She didn't use traditional weapons. She used the ship itself as a weapon. She turned ventilation ducts into traps, waste reclamation systems into acid bombs, and coffee machines into chemical dispersal units. One pirate was found unconscious inside a storage crate, zip-tied with power cords, and a sticky note that simply read, "Return to sender." No security team had ever moved like that. No warrior had used such unconventional tools. And no diplomat had ever walked calmly through an entire pirate crew and left only stories behind. It wasn't long before the Galactic Council issued Directive 4418, XR, Helmet Protocol for Humans. No human may board a galactic vessel with their helmet sealed unless preparing for declared combat or emergency simulation. Why? Because a sealed helmet meant the human was in mission mode. And when a human entered that state, they stopped being a passenger. They became a threat to anything that stood between them and survival. Rachel Voss wasn't punished. In fact, Earth promoted her. Her helmet was placed in a secure display at the United Earth Defense Museum with a small plaque beneath it. In space, trust the human with their helmet off. If it's still on, run. Let the galaxy remember. Humans are strange. They're not the strongest nor the fastest. But give them duct tape, a mission, and a helmet, and they will break your gods.